This episode contains triggering conversation that some audiences may find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to Everything and the Gym podcast. This is an interview episode. Hello. Welcome back to Everything and the Gym. I'm your host, Shelbi. Today, we are diving a little bit into my story because we have my sister here today.
Hi.
What is your name?
Austyn Montgomery.
How old are you?
I turn 22 next month.
Whoop, whoop. How does it feel to be 22?
I still feel like I'm 18, so I'm a child at heart.
Yeah. So what do you do?
I am a 5th grade PE coach. And that takes up most of my time. And then I go to college.
What are you going to college for?
Business administration. And then if it comes down to it, I'm going to get my alternate certification for PE. But I didn't want to go straight into teaching because I have to go like the math or reading route. And I just want to teach PE. So
yeah,
that's what I'm doing.
Why PE?
It's fun. And I don't have to worry about a test. So,
yeah.
Yeah. And then I get to play games, play dodgeball, work kids out. And
Yeah. You're also a runner.
yes.
We'll get into before, but like, what is your running look like right now?
I'm getting back into it. So yesterday I went for a run on the trail, which is about 3.5 miles. And you got to walk up. So it's not like fully running 3.5 miles.
Yeah.
But I have a coworker that I go run with, and she's really motivating me. But it's hard to run by myself right now because I'm not as good as I once was, and it's just hard to,
Yeah.
look at myself now, and I'm kind of like disappointed in it. But I know that I can get back to where I was, but it's just going to take some practice and time and motivation.
Well, one, I don't think you should be disappointed.
Yeah.
Let's kind of dig into that though. That way we can come back full circle.
Okay.
So, June 24th, 2018. Do you want to tell your side first, or do you want me to tell my side first?
Why don't you tell your side? Because I feel like my side's kind of long.
All right. So, June 24th, 2018, I was not talking to my parents really at the moment. We were going through some family things, and I had just had a baby a few months back. And so come June 24th, my daughter is 3 months old, and my in-laws were staying with us for the night. I don't really remember why, but they were staying with us, and the night before the 24th, so the 23rd, our air conditioner went out, and it was miserable, and we're all sleeping, and we get up early the next day to go get a window unit, and it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, and Crosby looks super cute, and so I take a picture of her, and I send it to Mom, and then we go on about our way, and we go to Lowe's, and we go and get breakfast, and we get home, we get things inside, Jake is still outside, and we get a phone call. And at the time, when this phone call came through, I decided I wasn't going to answer it. It was our dad, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to answer it, I'll call back later. As soon as it got done ringing, he immediately called back, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll answer. Well, I knew within like the first 5 seconds of his phone call that things were not okay. He said, Shelbi, is Jake around? And I said, yes. And he said, I need you to go get him. And so I go get Jake. I go get my mother-in-law. And he said, there's been an accident. And he said, it's bad. And I said, okay, how bad? And he was like, it's bad. And I instantly handed my child to my mother-in-law. And like, I just remember falling in the floor. And I'm like crying because I think we're going to lose you. I had no idea. Like, my main priority was you. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm going to lose my sister right now.
When he called, like, what was going through your head? Like, what did you think it was about? Like, the second time? Like, if you knew it was bad, like, what? You know?
I knew in his voice that it was bad. I didn't know.
Yeah.
But, like, our relationship was so, like, back and forth and touchy back then that, honestly, I had no idea what to expect. And so, yeah, I just knew. You could just tell in his voice that, like, something was not right. And it was so weird because I remember sitting on the floor crying, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my sister. And then I remember just, like, bouncing up, and I was like, we have to leave. And I remember going to my closet in my dresser to, like, pack a bag, and your brain is, like, going everywhere. And it's like, what do you pack? And I think that probably happened within a matter of, like, 10 minutes of, like, I'm packing, we're gone. And soon do I find out, like, later when I'm unpacking that night that I forgot underwear, I forgot a bra, I forgot, like, essentials. But I remember on the drive there, we had made it through Big Spring, and I got so frustrated because there were people who knew what happened before I did. And I was like, how? People were calling me, asking me, people that I hadn't heard from in years. They're like, oh my gosh, is your mom okay? Are you okay? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know anything. And then I remember just calling dad and trying to, like, get answers. I needed answers.
Was he answering?
No. He answered me one time, and I was like, I just need to know, like, is everybody okay? How's mom? How's Austyn? And he was like, Austyn's not doing okay. I mean, she's the better out of them all. But he was like, I didn't want to tell you this over the phone. He's like, but your mom had passed away. And, like, I remember Jake pulling over. And he pulled over, and he was like, do you want me to stop? And I was like, no!
Yeah.
Keep driving. You were not doing any good pulling over. Just keep driving.
How was he during all this? Because I know they say, like, it's not the best time to drive when something like this happens.
Oh, he was, like, very contained.
That's good.
Like, you couldn't tell anything. Like, I can't imagine, like, if he was like, oh my gosh, we have to go right now. I'd, like...
It'd probably make you even more, like...
I feel like you have, like, two ways you can go about that. You can be, like, panicked and, like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Or you kind of just put the pants on and you're like, well, I'm, like, I have to be the strong one in this situation. I feel like that's what he did. But I'll let you kind of explain, because, like, the next part of my story is not until the hospital.
Okay. Well, we were at the rodeo the night before, and the night before that. It was, like, really fun, you know. And I can't remember. This is kind of hazy to me, but I don't know if Braden stayed with us since we were leaving so early, or if he met us, like, at the house.
Who was Braden at the time?
Oh, Braden was my boyfriend, and, you know, we were, like, best friends.
Yeah.
We were together every single day.
And how old were you?
I was 16 and he was 18. Yeah. He was a senior, I was a sophomore. But we were together every single day. And, we went to the rodeo. Like I said, I don't remember if he stayed the night or not. But we got up in the morning and, we got everything loaded into the truck and we were going to go to Borger to drop some stuff off for Dad. Dad had stuff that he needed to drop off. And we were going to go fishing. And I believe at Lake Meredith, it's like this really big lake out there. And Dad was going to drive his motorcycle and we were all in the truck. And after we got everything packed, we went to the TA and we ate breakfast. And I don't remember that either. I don't remember. But I remember everything else from that day. But I don't remember what I ate for breakfast. Mm-hmm. But I remember getting in the truck before we hit the road after we ate. And I was like, I want to play music. And they were like, no, we're listening to country music. You're going to go to sleep anyway. It's like, okay, whatever. And so I laid down and put my blanket on. I was laying down like flat in the back seat with my head on the driver's side. And we left. And then the next thing I woke up to was the truck rolling. And I must have slept forever. I don't remember getting up at all. I slept forever up until, we got to south of Rawls. And I remember the truck rolling. And it was like, I describe it as like a washing machine or a dryer where you're just rolling. And I would hit the front seat, the back seat, front seat, back seat. And then it stopped, and it was so quiet. The truck landed like driver's side down, and so my head was like pretty much on the ground, and my legs were straight up. And I just remember looking to the right, and it was field. We were in the middle of nowhere, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I looked to the left, and this is, sorry, trigger warning, but I saw Braden, and he wasn't in good shape. I won't describe that. But I called out to him first. I was like, Braden, and he wouldn't answer. And so I was like, Mom, and she was like, what? And her voice was so grainy. And I was like, I knew she wasn't doing good. And then I was like, what happened? And she was like, I don't know. And so I felt perfectly fine in that moment. I felt fine. And I remember patting around for my phone. But, it's hard to when everything's like upside down for you pretty much. And I couldn't find it. And so I thought the next best option was to climb out. And so I looked and I grabbed onto the back seat and I pushed. And then I felt the pain of my leg. And I got probably about to my ribs out. And I turned. And I saw these people running to me. And I was like, help me. Get me out of here. And they pulled me out. And I don't know how long it was, how long we were there, how long we were down. But it feels like minutes since I was like, what happened? To them pulling me out. And when they pulled me out, my leg was not in good shape. I broke my femur, and my leg was facing one way, and my hip was facing the other way. And I couldn't move my toes. And that was one thing that I was like, I can't move my toes. And what was going through my mind at that moment was, I'm never going to be able to run again. I'm not going to be able to walk again. My life is over. And because I've never been around anything medical, so I don't know what happens in that situation where you break your leg or whatever. And they pulled me out and they were like, do you have anybody that we can call? It was like, my dad, call my dad. And I gave them his number.
Pause. Where was he? We never explained where he was.
He was ahead of us on the motorcycle. And he stopped somewhere. I don't remember where he stopped, but he stopped somewhere. And he tried calling all three of us. And we didn't answer. And he was like, oh, crap. He didn't think anything was bad. He was just curious as to why we weren't answering our phone. Mm-hmm. And so he started to head back. But that person was like, is there anybody that you can call? And so I told them Dad's number. They called Dad first and went straight to voicemail. And they left a voicemail. And they were like, do you have anybody else? I was like, my sister. And I kept giving them your old number because I didn't realize you got a new number. And that wasn't working. And I was like, oh my God, like, what do we do? We're in the middle of nowhere. I believe there's 3 people, and the other one was on the phone with dispatch. And there was a guy there too. And they didn't speak, they spoke English, but you could tell that they had an accent. And the guy was like, you need to get them out of here. Move her back. It's going to explode. The truck's going to explode. And I was like, you're not moving me. If you move me, like, I'm going to scream. Like, you leave me here. I don't care if it blows up. You leave me here. If you're scared that it's going to blow up, you move, because I am not moving. My leg hurts too bad. And when they pulled me out, like, I looked at the truck and you couldn't even tell. It was bad. And I saw Mom's. This part is confusing to me, but it looked like her foot sticking out of the truck. The truck was like laying on her. They said it was her arm, but it looked like her foot to me because it looked like it had a shoe on it. So I don't know if that was just because how badly damaged it was, but yeah, that image I cannot get out of my head is the truck and part of her sticking out. And so Dad shows up and he asked me how I'm feeling, and I'm like, my leg is like broken straight in half, like it's clean break. And I didn't even really know what that meant. I thought a clean break meant like completely broken, because like that's what it was. But it turns out like a clean break is like where the bone isn't splintered or anything. So I told him that, and at this point I couldn't hold myself up anymore, because I was like laying with my legs straight out and my arms behind me, kind of like, you're just chilling. And my arms were getting so tired, and I just remember I needed to like lay down. And so I laid down and I instantly couldn't breathe. And so I was like, pick me up. And they sat me up, and my arms were so tired I couldn't hold myself up anymore. So the lady stood with her knees in my back until the ambulance got there. And as soon as they picked me up, I started coughing up blood. And that's when Dad said that he knew I wasn't in good shape, was when I started coughing up blood. And there was a sheriff there. A sheriff finally showed up, and he was making me so mad. What happened? I don't know. You don't know what happened? No, I was asleep. I just woke up to the truck rolling. Oh. Well, were you wearing your seatbelt? I don't know. You don't know that you were wearing your seatbelt? I was like, I don't know. I just crawled out. So like I told him, I was like, I don't think I was, because I don't remember taking it off. And I just crawled out. And he's like, okay, so you don't know what happened. I was asleep. You weren't wearing your seatbelt. I don't know. Like, it was just like constant interrogating. And I was like, I clearly just went through something horrific. Why do you keep asking me that? And the ambulance showed up, and they put me on the stretcher. And I remember thinking, oh, this is going to hurt so bad. And it honestly didn't hurt that bad. And so they got me in the ambulance, and I just remember this one lady, and she had glasses and short hair, and I was like, I can't lay down. I need you to sit behind me. I can't lay down. And she's like, okay. And so she sat right there behind me in the ambulance until I went out. And so now we move on to the hospital.
But isn't there a moment in the air flight that I feel like you and I have talked about, like you had like some kind of hallucination in the air flight?
It's when I get to the hospital.
Okay. I'll go to my part then. So Jake and I arrive at the hospital, and I am instantly confused because first off, they said, like, we go to the emergency room, and they're like, oh no, she's in pediatric ICU. You need to go out this door and around and like up to this floor. It was,
Yeah, that hospital layout's weird.
yeah. So we finally find you guys, and I'm confused because there are people that I have not seen for 5+ years at the hospital. Like, so many people lining the hospital
Of people
lines.
that we knew?
Of people we knew. And I'm like, where have you been the last 5 years? Like, why are you at the hospital now when, like, honestly, things weren't great? And, like, I don't know, where have you guys been?
Yeah.
And, like, how did you guys beat me here?
Mm-hmm.
And it is a whole thing. And I just remember, like, going to Dad, and I'm like, okay, how is she? Like, we knew Mom had passed away. He had told me over the phone, and I'm like, have you gotten to see her? And he's like, no, they said that they would come get us when they're done working on her. And so we waited, and we waited, and we waited, and I'm pretty sure we ended up doing all the Ronald McDonald House things first. We knew you were going to be there a while. And UMC has the Ronald McDonald House. And if you don't know what that is for families who have children in pediatric ICU. The families are allowed to stay at this place for free. And so you get like clean showers, clean bedding, and you really don't have a time frame on like when you have to leave.
You can also cook there.
You can cook. They have their, like, the Ronald McDonald House is a separate house, like, kind of away from the hospital. But then, like, in the hospital, they also have, like, a kitchen and stuff specifically for Ronald McDonald families. And so that was very much appreciated because we were just, like, right across the street from you. So I'm pretty sure we got all of that set up. I remember people like bringing us food. Somebody had brought like hamburgers or something, and I think I ate like half. But I remember I'm like, okay, I can't eat anymore. And then, so this is at like early in the morning, like 10:08. I think you guys got to the hospital at like 10 something.
Yeah, I believe the accident happened at like 8:39.
Yeah. You guys might, I think you got there around like 10:30ish, and then Jake and I were there like an hour or so later. We didn't get to see you until like 10 o'clock at night.
Really?
Like,
I didn't realize it was that long.
It was late. I remember it was dark outside whenever we finally got to see.
And it was summertime, so
yeah. They were working on you for a very, very long time. And I remember they were like, you can come see her now, but just know she's like in a super fragile state. You can't touch her. We could barely move her. And they said that you were in such bad condition they couldn't even like wipe you down. And I just remember like walking in there, and you have like all these cords all over you, and then you had like blood on your hands. There was even blood on the wall. Like a blood splatter from everything that they were doing to you. And one of the nurses had said that he was like manually pumping blood into you, just like squeezing the bag because it wasn't going in you. Like, yeah.
I can't remember how many units of blood. I think it's like in the 30s.
Yeah.
How much I got in my entire hospital stay. So
it was a lot.
Go on.
But I had made the decision to stay the night with you that night because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't leave you. I can't leave you. And Dad was like, okay, I'll go stay at the Ronald McDonald House. You can stay here. I think Jake stayed at the Ronald McDonald House too that night. I'm not sure. But they set me like up on a couch. They had you heavily sedated for good reason. Hang on. Pause.
Were you able to sleep that night?
It was like off and on sleep. Not the best sleep of your life, that's for sure. But I just remember the nurses were checking on you like every hour, and so you have people like in and out. And then like in the back of my mind, like, you know nothing.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, to me, it was kind of nice to know that you weren't going to be able to wake up. And so I could rest easy on like that side.
Yeah.
I knew you weren't going to wake up and be like, oh my God, what happened? Kind of thing. I don't know if I could have done that one by myself. They put tubes in. They put tubes in your lungs that day. They put you on a ventilator, and your right femur was broken. It was internally bleeding.
I believe they also nicked an artery when they put a chest tube in. So
Yeah.
I believe that's what they told me, because that scar right there is a lot bigger than the other chest tube scars.
Yeah. They weren't able to get you a CT scan because you were so fragile. And so they had no idea if it was like any kind of mental issues. Yeah.
And they believe that I would have it because I went down something.
Yeah, you were without
low
oxygen for a certain amount of time. And then your leg was in traction, so they had your leg like hanging, and it had like a pulley system, and it was like pulling on your leg.
Was that the first night?
Yeah.
Was that scary to see? I remember Jake when I woke up. Jake was like,
dude. Yeah, because you had like screws through, like they straight up screwed through your bones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the scarier part for me was just like seeing you on a ventilator and seeing something like breathing for you. And
I've seen videos where like you can see their chest going up.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah. Yeah. You could tell and you can hear it. It's like it's, sorry if that was aggressive. But yeah. You had to have a rod put in, but that didn't happen until later on your leg. Yeah. All right.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, if you want to.
Okay. So I passed out in the ambulance, and then the next thing I remember is, quote, waking up in the hospital. I had an out-of-body experience when they were wheeling me in on, I guess, the gurney. And I don't know if it was a hospital bed or a gurney, but I just remember like people pushing me, and well, I was like above myself, and I just saw myself and people rushing all around me. And when I looked at myself, I had blood from right here all the way down. And I was like covered in it. And so when I got wheeled in, I had like already knew that the hospital had, like the wreck had happened. And so my thinking was this was something completely different why I was here, because there's like a black point, a gap in time from the ambulance to when they're wheeling me in. It's like I black out, like no time exists right there. And so I was thinking, I had been in another accident, something different where I had lost my jaw. So, y'all woke me up on the 6th floor, and what?
Are you telling the jaw story right now?
Well, I mean, this goes into like my hallucinations. So like that's pretty much my time period is like the accident, passing out in the ambulance to the hospital.
Yeah.
Like that experience. It's me seeing myself to waking up on 6th floor.
We'll explain the 6th floor in a second.
Okay. So do you want to go on? Or do you want to go on?
Because people don't know what the 6th floor is and why you're on the 6th floor yet.
So do we want to go into like injuries then?
Yes.
And then we'll describe all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You were immediately rushed to pediatric ICU though, because
they like bypassed me, didn't triage me. Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Thankfully, Dr. Todd heard that call though.
Yeah. They got a room set up right away.
Yeah. Yeah. So what were your injuries?
I had a broken leg and lots of broken ribs and bruised lungs. And I believe one of my ribs like punctured
It did.
my lung. And I think it was the right side because that side was the worst side. So those were my injuries. And though they don't sound like that bad, it was bad.
Yeah.
So
They were also saying like your kidneys weren't working correctly.
yeah, because my body was working so hard to fix everything else that was going on. I went into like partial kidney failure.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And then the ventilator was like down through and was breathing for you most of the time. And I remember for like a long time, like within those few days, they were trying to like pull you off of it and it wasn't going. And then they would pull you off of it again. And then it like your body just was not responding well. And you had many surgeries like over the course of like 2 or 3 days.
I had a total of 10 surgeries. They were all spread out. I don't know when they are. You probably do.
Yeah.
But I had 4 chest tubes, a peg tube, which is a feeding tube in my stomach, traction, a rod installed to my leg, a thoracotomy, ECMO.
And you had a trach put in
Trach.
eventually.
Yeah, that's what it is. I forget about that one.
Yeah. They were having a hard time just trying to figure out like regulating your medications, trying to figure out like which medicines, if they should sedate you, if they should take you off sedation. I mean, there are so many conversations happening every time rounds. Like, we're going to try this, we're doing that. And like, I remember there was a time when, like at this point Dad, me, and Jake have kind of adjusted to like living hospital life, and we're like trading off shifts, and like I would stay with you for a few hours, and then like Dad would stay for just a few hours. And
how many days was into it?
Oh, I don't know.
Like the first week.
Yeah, we just kind of had our like routine. I remember my mother-in-law, she was like, "What do you want me to do with your child?" And I was like, "I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Figure it out. Just keep her alive." I wasn't breastfeeding at the time, so
you had other issues.
Yeah, and so I was just formula, so that was kind of nice to just be like,
you didn't even have to worry about it.
Yeah, and she kept her for weeks, and then I remember trying to juggle like staying in Lubbock and then like still seeing my child and Jake and keep my marriage up, and it was difficult and it was a lot to process. But I remember there was a time whenever I was sitting in your room and they were talking about how they wanted to transfer you out to Cooks. You just like, your lungs were having a hard time, but the problem was your lungs were having a hard time. And like you being transferred to Cooks, like it was either going to be an ambulance drive, which is iffy with all the bumps and whatnot, because you like straight up your body could not handle it. And so like the conversation of like, okay, well, what can we do here? And Dr. Tiva was like, well, she needs to be on ECMO. And I remember sitting there next to him, like he was sitting like you and me just having a conversation. Then I was like, well, what needs to be done for that to happen? Because that's what they were going to do in Cooks, was try and get you on ECMO. And basically what ECMO does is it takes your blood out of your body, circulates it through a machine, and puts oxygen back in it, takes the carbon dioxide out, and like pretty much filters like what your lungs would be doing for you, and it puts it back into your body. And I remember the conversation of like, well, we have a machine here, but you knew more about that and why they decided, why like because it was a battle for them to get you to.
They did it without the hospital board knowing.
Yeah.
Because they've only done it on children. Like babies.
Like preemie babies.
Yes, preemie babies. That's what that machine was for.
And whenever I looked that up, that it was like 30 years ago from the time you had your wreck. Like this machine, I looked it up today. This machine was bought 30 years prior to when your accident happened, and they hadn't used it in so long. Yeah.
So what did you find? Like, was that on the?
It was on the Children's Miracle Network.
Wow.
Dr. Teva said it.
It hasn't been used in 30 years?
It hadn't been used in 30, like they had bought it 30 years ago. And
it's never been used.
I think they might, I don't know. I could be completely wrong.
I feel like because it's only typically used on preemies. Yeah. And they have such a high preemie rate, like surviving babies. I mean. Yeah. So, yeah. And I remember Dr. Hirsch coming down, and Dr. Teva was like, no. I don't think we should go through with this. And Dr. Hirsch was like, I don't care. She's my patient now. I'm taking her up, and we're doing this. And so he's the one that really fought for me to get this surgery. And the hospital board was telling him no, because, it hasn't been used in forever, and it's never been done at this hospital on a teenager/adult. So they did it. And I like to say that I was their guinea pig because, I feel like that opened the door for somebody else that comes in.
Didn't they use ECMO on another kid
when
after you?
COVID happened, I believe that they were using the ECMO machines.
Yeah.
So,
basically this was a surgery where they took your arteries and your femoral arteries. Was it?
My groin.
Yeah.
It's in my groins. I can't remember what arteries those are. But the funny thing, when they took those stitches out, I remember them being like zip ties. Not zip ties, twist ties that you get like on bread. That's what those stitches looked like to me. And they kept them in there so long. They took them out late, and so they had to rip out the scab. And my scars right there, like, are so uneven and stuff because they left them in there so long. But I just remember telling them I don't want them out right now. So I feel like it was partially my fault why they kept them in there so long. But yeah. So 6th floor, Dr. Hirsch takes me over.
Yeah.
6th floor, you still have no idea what's happened yet. No, I haven't woken up yet.
Yeah.
So they do ECMO first, and right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. When is my rod put in?
Oh, your rod was put in before ECMO.
Okay, because I remember you telling me that I was stable, and when I came back from that, I wasn't.
You weren't. There were many times where you had gone to surgery and you came back, and we were like, "Well, we don't know.
Yeah,
you might not make it."
Yeah. So yeah, Dr. Hirsch takes me over. I'm on the 6th floor. Do you want to talk about that, or do you want me to?
I remember the 6th floor was very different.
I hated it.
Because like on pediatric ICU, you're allowed like family back there, and like it's made for children. The kids it's colorful. Their nurses are friendly, and which 6th floor nurses were friendly. Well, some of them. Michelle,
yes,
Michelle was godsend.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
But no, you were on the 6th floor by the 4th of July. Because I remember watching fireworks from the 6th floor windows. But it was very different for the fact of like, it's not brightly colored. It is, you are allowed 2 people in the room, if at all. Some days, like, we weren't allowed to be in there with you together just because, like, there's so many cords and so many things. And there's, like, red tape on the floor that you can't cross over. And there was a lot more rules up there.
Yeah. And I mean, that's cardiac, right?
It's a cardiac unit.
Cardiac ICU.
Yeah.
I was about to say cardiatric, like geriatric, but that's not right. So.
Yeah. I remember there was a lot of conversation while you were up there with the psych team. Because we were like, when is she going to wake up? We want you, like, UMC has a whole team dedicated to psych and like children. So children who go through a lot of pediatric trauma, they're there to kind of assist with that. And I remember there was a moment where you had like asked me about Brayden. Like you were kind of awake, but not really. They still kind of had you like really sedated, but you had asked me about Brayden. And I remember being like, because I was by myself. And I remember being kind of freaked because I was like, oh my God, what do I tell you?
Yeah.
If I tell you that they both passed away, are you going to like die with them and just like
Give up
and go? And I was like, I'll be right back. That's what I told you. I was like, I'll be right back. And I remember going to the nurse and being like, what do I do? And they were like, she's probably not going to remember asking you. And they gave you like anxiety meds to like calm you down a little bit. But yeah.
I wonder what was going through my mind at that time, because I don't remember asking that.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of scary to be like in and out too. Like you're in the hospital, you're not. You're in the hospital, you're not.
I wish I knew what was going through my mind, because I've heard that I did some funny stuff.
Oh yeah.
Wow. I was kind of out of it. So I just wish I knew what was going on.
Didn't you say you had like some crazy dreams?
Yes. Do you want me to get into that now?
You could.
Okay. So, wheeling me in on the gurney, all right, I had that out-of-body experience. And so, when y'all woke me up on the 6th floor, I thought I was in there for losing my jaw. Okay, so like, in case, you're not caught up to speed, my out-of-body experience, I had blood all over my jaw, and I thought there was like a time gap between the accident and wheeling me in. So, I thought I was in there for a different reason, which was losing my jaw. So when y'all woke me up, I was like, there's no way I'm going to live looking like this without my jaw and like not being able to eat anything. And so I was just I don't want to be here. I don't want to live no more.
Yeah, you kept telling us that. And I was like, oh my God.
Because I seriously thought that I was going to live a miserable life. Because I didn't have a jaw.
But see, like, we had no idea. We had no context. We had no idea that that's what you thought. Because I'm pretty sure this happened after we told you about mom and dad. No? It happened before?
I don't.
Because I remember.
Oh, yes. Okay, because I woke up.
We told you, and then all you kept saying is, I want to die. I want to die. And I'm like, what the, like, we can't just kill you now.
I'm sorry. It's not funny, but like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
We shouldn't have put you on the ventilator if you want to die.
Okay. Oh my gosh. But seriously, I think it's because I was loopy from the medications. I just remember like telling y'all that. Yeah. And I remember you and Michelle looking at me, like just looking at me when I was doing this to y'all. And Michelle was like, how does your dad feel about all this? And I was like, I can hear y'all and I don't want to be here. Like, why aren't y'all doing anything? I was so dead set on not wanting to be there.
But you still had the vent down your throat too.
Yeah. I couldn't, yeah, it's from what I saw. Yeah. That made me think I didn't. So, we'll talk about the 6th floor, okay? So, when I woke up, also, I feel like I saw people at the door, like older people, and they were like coming in and walking out. I think this might have been another hallucination. I don't know. I can't tell if it was like people that were coming to visit or what, but we didn't have any visitors that day, right?
Well,
came up.
You had unexpected visitors, and I was very pissed off about it.
We'll talk about that in a second. But I just remember thinking, Mom should be here. Why is Mom not here? Shelby's here, Dad's here, why is Mom not here? Because I was talking to her at the accident. So in my mind, I thought that she had made it. And like Brayden, I was like, okay, well, he wasn't doing good when I saw him. So I kind of put context clues together, and I also heard it somewhere, whether that be in the hospital or the ambulance, that somebody in the vehicle died. I heard it somewhere, and I can't figure out where I heard it. And my mind automatically like clicked it to Brayden because he was not good. Mm-hmm. So when I was asking where Mom was, I just remembered looking at you and Dad, and y'all were like, she didn't make it. Y'all were like, y'all know that do you know the accident that you were in? I was like, mm-hmm. And y'all were like, she didn't make it. And y'all were like, it's okay to cry. And I just wasn't thinking anything. Literally, like I had nothing in my mind. And I think it was all the drugs that I was on. Mm-hmm. I couldn't process it. And then y'all told me that Brayden died too. And I was like, oh, I know.
Yeah, that freaks me out.
If I had like the tubes down my throat, how did y'all know I said that? I'm just curious.
You were able to kind of talk a little bit over it. But what's weird is they would take you off of sedation and like we would get you back for a little bit, but then like your body would be like, nope, sorry. Psh, and like you would crash. And there were points after this where like you had to go back under sedation for a little while.
Oh yeah.
And like it wasn't the full sedation, but like we would get you back a little bit, and then it'd be like, okay, we got to up this a little bit because, yeah.
So y'all told me that, and I just remember like, not meh, but that's how I was feeling. That's what I was thinking was like, okay. I really didn't know what to do at that point because like I couldn't move, I couldn't do anything. What were you gonna say?
It's just it's kind of weird because like we really never grieved because like I remember like I cried like once I think when all of this happened, and it was like the first night, but after that like
I always feel like people look at me weird because of that. Because, I mean, I don't talk about them, really. I don't post about them. I don't cry over them. I don't mention them when I talk to people. And I never really have. And I feel like people look at me like, wow, she's really like that. Like, she doesn't care what she went through. She doesn't care about Brayden. She doesn't care about Mom. But I do. It's just not the person that I am to be stuck on it. Mm-hmm. I do think about them, but it doesn't make me sad because I can't change what happened. And there's no way I'm going to ever get them back. So my thinking is why should I be so upset about it? And also, I think another reason why I feel this way is because when I woke up in the hospital, it was boom, 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 like physical therapy and all this stuff. For you. When I got home, it was you. Because I had to learn to walk again. I had to learn to run again. All of this stuff. So I feel like my focus was myself. And I feel like that's why I can't grieve them. Because I'm in a way, I feel like I had to learn to become a new Austyn and grieve my past self in a way. Like, I'm never going to get that person back. Mm-hmm. So, like, I have to figure out my new normal.
You had to become at peace with yourself.
Yes, before I could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember there were some conversations when you were on the 6th floor. I did get a little panicked then because they were taking you back to surgery for your lungs, and they were also going to put a tracheotomy in.
My thoracotomy, which was where they open my chest cavity up and just clean out all the mess. And then they put the trach in at the same time?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And I remember, like, Dad and I having a conversation of, well, like, if something happens to you, Dad was like, what do we do if something happens to her? And very vividly remember where we were sitting, and I was like, I guess you cremate her like we did Mom. Like, at least we could make jewelry out of them. Like, that's what I was thinking in my head, because you can have them sent to, like, be made into jewelry. But,
so we're still on the 6th floor at this point. I had so many crazy hallucinations, dreams, whatever they were. And I had, oh my gosh, they were crazy. I can't even describe them.
You had one about Nicki Minaj.
I did have one about Nicki Minaj. She was trying to find me in the hospital and fight me. Like, I'm not even joking. Not even joking. It was crazy. It was like, she's getting closer. She's going to get me. Like, it was crazy. And then I had another one that night. Like, I could not sleep. Like, I was just like at the TV. And then there was like, the whole room went dark. And it was like these little things. Okay, you know the 90s like purple turquoise stuff? Okay, it was like confetti flying across. A lizard would go across. An alphabet letter would go across. It was just like all these different things. I had one of Dad, and Dad was a bad guy, and they were trying to find Dad. It was crazy stuff. My mind was not right.
I wonder if that's because of like all the drugs you're on.
Yeah, I really do think so, because I was tripping balls. Like, it was bad.
Yeah.
And it haunts me. That's the one thing that I think about all the time, is like the crazy stuff that I saw. It haunts me.
Yeah.
And then later that night, I don't know if I was awake for many days, but I just remember Dr. Hirsch sitting there.
Oh, yeah.
Doing that.
Why was he in there? I can't remember why he was in there.
I don't know.
I think something to do with like you had to have like 24-hour care or something.
And he worked all day.
He did.
He worked all day and stayed there overnight, and had to be working the next day too.
Yeah.
And Dad was right there, and Dr. Hirsch was sitting right there. He was just like this. The entire time he was in there. The entire time. And I was like, who is this dude? Why is he in here? Why is he staring at me? And he had a surgical cap on. And that's all. Like, I knew he was a doctor, but I just didn't know why he was staring at me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the RT or whatever that came in, I don't know. I think it was an RT, because he was checking.
You had to have a lot of RTs.
He was checking on the machine, which is a respiratory therapist, for those that don't know. But he would come in, and I remember him telling us, oh, I was in a similar situation. And we were just kind of like, okay. Like, I couldn't talk, obviously. And he was like, yeah, I hit somebody when I was younger, and I killed them. And we were just like, and that's all he said, and he walked out. Checked the machine, and when he came in, and I remember Dad telling me that Dr. Hirsch was so mad at him. Like, he wanted him out of there. So I think they switched him, but oh my gosh. Like, that is one thing that I think about, like,
yeah.
Why tell us that?
Yeah. I did like Dr. Hirsch. He said that your lungs, like, so let's kind of get into how many miles. He said that you survived because of how many miles you were running a day. Mm-hmm. How many miles were you running up until the accident?
3 to like 5 or 6
a day.
Yeah. I would run to school and stuff. And I was also swimming in the summer. So I would run and I would swim.
But like lap swimming.
Yeah. Like back and forth. And I remember my coach was like, you can't do that come season, because you're going to be so exhausted. Your body's overworking. I was like, but I'm in shape. I want to get in better shape so I can run faster. Mm-hmm. And it's funny that he says that, because the paramedic said that I was a brick house. Like, if I wasn't like, I wasn't strong, but because I was so fit, like, it withstood the impact pretty much.
So, more reason to get in shape.
Yes. And I've thought about that several times. I'm like, if I ever get in another car accident, am I going to live? Because I am not in the shape I used to be. So
Yeah.
I've thought about that a lot.
Yeah. So you eventually get moved back to pediatric ICU after ECMO is taken out. When did they put a peg tube in you?
I don't know.
I feel like that was.
Well, it wasn't on the 6th floor because they were nose feeding me.
Oh, yeah.
And I hated that.
Yeah, they were.
I hated that. Oh my God.
Could you feel the tube going down your throat?
I could feel it going in my nose. And
Yeah.
The camera that they had to, no.
No.
The nose hurt.
Yeah. 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 So then that had to have been after ECMO.
Yeah.
You got the peg tube, and you had that for a while.
I had that until Halloween of 2018.
Yeah.
I remember that day, like, because I got it out on Halloween. I was like, I'm a zombie. Because it was all, like,
yeah.
gross.
Yeah. Okay, so you were in the hospital for 56. How many? It's close to 50.
I can't even remember
It's like
now.
46 or 56, something around that number. But
I got out, like, completely, went home. I think it was like a week before school started. So.
But you ended up going to rehab.
Yeah, for 10 days.
Yeah, you didn't go straight from the hospital home. You went to an actual rehab because you didn't know how to walk before that, right?
They worked with me. I literally had to learn to walk again.
Yeah.
With her name is Senya, the physical therapist. They would come in every day, and they would do like the mobility stuff. And I remember the day that I had to walk or like stand up. I was like, I can't stand on this leg. No, I'm not doing it. And she's like, well, you got to. If you want to run again, you're going to have to. I'm like, okay. So they put like this cast thing over my leg. And I was so surprised when I woke up that I didn't have a cast. I always thought like if you broke or something, you had to have a cast. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't the case.
Yeah, they said as soon as your rod was put in, you could walk like normal, which is crazy.
Yeah. So I ended up started walking at the hospital. I walked with y'all not there. I think for the first time, y'all weren't there.
Yeah.
Dad wasn't there. It was Renan that was there.
I had to go back home. Your stomach's growling.
I haven't eaten anything all day.
I had to go back home to live my life.
Yeah, because I was better at that point.
Yeah, you were doing okay. You were awake enough where we could video chat and I could check on you.
Yeah.
And
my phone, when I turned that thing on, crazy.
Yeah.
Like 800 notifications.
Yeah, it was insane. I think Dad might have turned it on like once or twice just to like see if it still worked because
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. So yeah, you are actually, before we get to Trust Point, I want to talk about Crosby coming to see you because it was so cute.
Why don't you explain the first time you brought her in?
Oh yeah. So I take Crosby and you're still on
I was on the
you were on pediatric ICU because she wasn't allowed in the cardiac ICU area. She had to be over 18. But I remember you were somewhat sedated, but not fully. You were kind of aware of your surroundings. And I tried to bring her in there and you were like, no, I don't want her to see me like this. And like, so we didn't bring her in there until you were like out of ECMO. Yeah. But it was so cute. Her like sitting. I have pictures. I need to post
for
those.
Hours.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't do anything really. So it was nice to like, and I feel like you can only play on your phone for so long. So
yeah. You were painting too.
Yes. They hired a painter to come and paint with me. We painted like 2 things. She was supposed to come a 3rd time, but I ended up moving to Trust Point at that point. Yeah, and I gave one of them to you, and I gave the other one to Jamie. the nurse.
Yeah.
And then I painted they were like, well, where's my painting? All the other ones, all the
Yeah.
other nurses. And I was like, okay. So I would go home and I would paint. And every time we'd go up for a doctor's appointment and be like, here you go.
I have a question. So whenever you were back down on the pediatric ICU, you were really asking for me to shave your legs. But you had a certain way that you did it, and you were only going to let me shave your legs the way that you did it, and I thought it was quite ridiculous. But I did it anyway. I basically had to give you a sponge bath, and then you wanted your legs exfoliated and then shaved and then exfoliated and then shaved and then lotion on. So each leg got shaved 2 times and exfoliated 2 times. And I was like, you are so lucky that you are laying in this bed and can't do this yourself. Do you still shave your legs like that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. The maintenance.
Okay, well, I actually waxed them the other day. Tried to. And it didn't work very well. But
let it grow out and then let me wax it for you.
Why?
Huh?
Why?
Just let me do it.
Are you going to be mean to me?
I don't know. Big sister tactics. I just had to ask if that's how you still
I knew
shave.
you were going to ask that.
Yeah.
So, PICU, I actually really as weird as it may seem, I actually enjoyed my time being awake there. I mean, I loved it. They were all so nice.
Yeah, you had some great nurses.
And I had some inside jokes with some of them. My pinkies, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, are bent. Okay. So when they first brought me in, I guess they had me semi-sedated, and they were examining my body. 2 nurses were. I don't remember who the other one was, but they were like, we missed a fracture. And I was like, no. And I went back out.
Yeah.
So some of it's funny, and some of it I think about, and I'm like, man. I also had 2 other out-of-body experiences. So one of them was also on the 6th floor. And I remember you were in the room. And I guess I crashed again, something. I was awake. I don't know if you remember that. But I feel like I just kind of fell. I don't know. I feel that's what it seems like to me. But I remember the nurse being in there working on me. But I just saw myself I don't know.
I don't remember.
It's been
there
so
were
long.
so many times that you were.
And then the other one was in surgery. I believe it was in surgery because everything was blue, and it was dim, kind of. There was one light above. It was, and the rest of the room was dim. And it was my leg. They were working on my leg. Is what it looked like to me. Yeah. So I had 3 out-of-body experiences. If you believe in them, great. If you don't, then I don't know what I saw then.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
so you finally get home, or we are at Trust Point and we're getting you home, and I remember being freaked out because I was like, oh my God, how are you going to do this? How are you going to Dad was there, but now you have to take care of yourself. You don't have Mom to
that's
help
something
you.
that went through my head, was not that me and Dad didn't have a good relationship or anything, but I was I have to live with Dad now?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It was kind of a shocking thing because me and Mom were best friends. Yeah. I know y'all didn't have a good relationship at the time, but she was my best friend. We we went driving around every day. So, cause it was summertime, we didn't have anything else to do. And so it was just oh, I have to live with Dad. What?
Yeah.
It was something a teenager would think, I was 16. I don't know if we said that.
Yeah. And then you were also going home with a peg tube.
Yes.
And it was a whole ordeal, and trying to make sure you knew how to feed and clean. And
they were going to send me home with the trach.
Really?
Yeah. They were, because...
I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah. They were, because I remember at Trust Point, they were we're going to have to... you're going to have to learn how to take care of it, clean it and everything. And I was what? And there was one nurse, her name was Ari at UMC, that did it so good. And like to where I couldn't feel anything. And all the other nurses I hated when they would do it because like it hurt and everything. Cause like they had stitches and they would like pull. So I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to get it out. And they're like, we'll just have to see how like your O2 levels are and stuff. And then I ended up getting it out. But
It's crazy how a hole like that heals.
I don't remember looking at that one, but my peg tube hole was gross.
Yeah.
So it was rubbing. Like I had it for, 3 months.
Yeah.
4 months. I had it for 4 months when I got home. Or not 4 months. Whatever. And I, like they didn't really tell me how to take care of it. And when they make like these gauze things for it that you're supposed to put on it to like prevent it from rubbing and stuff. But I didn't have any of those. And so when I went home, I was just kind of like, okay. And it started to like, I don't know if you've ever seen a colostomy bag. You know how that's red?
Mm-hmm.
It started to like turn red right there. And it would hurt. And like I was just like, oh, I get it out in like a week, so it's fine. And also, I still have that pole. I still have the
So it was a whole ordeal with insurance trying to get you a pole for your feedings.
But anyways, I went and I got it out. And it's like a balloon that's in your stomach too. And I was like, okay, well, so how does this work? Do you just deflate the balloon and like rip it out? And she was like, no, I'm just gonna rip it out. Like, cause like they couldn't deflate the balloon. It's like, okay. And so I go there and she's like, close your eyes. Like, I don't want you to have to like watch this. And I was like, okay. And she was like, all right. And she just yanked it out. And I was like, oh, that hurt. It hurt. Like I said, like it pulled the skin and everything. And I asked about like the redness because it was still there. And she was like, oh, it'll heal up unless you want us to burn it. No, I'm okay. Like if it'll heal up, I'll leave it. So I just had a patch and it was like oozy and gross. I think I have some pictures of
it. We won't show those.
No.
So what was it like? Because you started school like shortly after you got home. It was like within weeks. What was that like going to school?
They were trying to keep me home. But I've lived in that house my whole life. Mom's always been in my life. I really didn't want to be home because like I would be home the rest of the day. I can't do anything. I don't want to be home all the time.
And by yourself because Dad had to work.
Mm-hmm. And I just feel like that's not a good thing when you just go I mean I was fine, but I just feel like that's room to get in your head and stuff and think about things. So I was like, no, you're not keeping me here. They were gonna send like a tutor or somebody to like teach me all of the stuff that was being taught at school. So they were like, okay, well, we can put you in the library by yourself and we can have the teachers come in and teach you. I only had 4 classes. All the other juniors had 8. And so I went and I stayed in the library and they came in and stuff. But it's kind of weird. It was weird because people don't know how to treat you in that situation. They were like, oh, she's back. Yay, she's back, but I don't know how to talk to you anymore. Okay.
Did your friends change?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a best friend. And she had a good heart. And I think she just didn't know how to react to the situation. Because she didn't want to hurt me. She didn't want to she was just very protective over me. I don't know. It's different. Treat me the same. I'm still not technically the same, but I'm still Austyn.
Yeah.
So, but nowadays, like, I don't have any friends. And it's kind of sad because, like you said, where were you those days?
Yeah.
Where are you now?
Yeah.
You're not here anymore. You were here for like 2 months when it was fun to be on the bandwagon, and now you're gone.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's kind of hard to, like wrap your mind around, like, you have an influx of people when something tragic happens, but then, like, they also have their own lives that they have to maintain as well. But also, like, sometimes I really just need somebody to check on me and make sure I'm okay.
And that's true, like, that they have their own lives and everything. But I feel like, and this is just my opinion, it was cool to talk, like, not talk about it, but cool to, like, talk to me and stuff. Or they were probably being nice, but it's like once I got home and everything, I became irrelevant to people. And it sucked because it's like I had all these people talking to me, all these people checking on me, making sure that I was okay. And, like, I appreciate them for that. And I thank them for, like, donating and stuff. Like, people repost stuff, and I'm like, okay, but, like, you're still not there for the people that, went through all that. Like, I just want to add to that. There are some people that took pictures with me, posted it, and it's still on their Facebook or Instagram.
It's crazy when trauma happens because, like, the stories that get tangled up into it. Like, there were times people would, like, I would hear a story that somebody had said about, like, why the accident happened, and, like, they were so bizarre and, like, so far out of the question. It'd be like, oh yeah, their dad, da 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 da. No, he had nothing to do with the accident. Or just, like, what actually happened?
So,
Sorry.
They don't know what happened. So the pretty much what, like, is said to happen is she went off the right side of the road for some reason, and she got caught in this drop off. And so
it was a 6-inch drop
from
the road to the ground.
She overcorrected and she went off the left side of the road, and then she overcorrected again, and that's when we started flipping. And the truck landed, like, in the middle of the road. So I remember at the scene, people had to drive around.
Yeah.
Like, in the ditch to pass us. So
I remember being so tangled up with, like, why did this happen? What happened? I remember being so frustrated because we got our autopsy back, but we also got, like, the investigation, and I was so mad because I'm like, why? Why don't you have answers?
It didn't say anything.
What are you? And, like, it was a thing where she could have sneezed. She could have, like, bypassed, like, a car could have pulled out in front of her, which is kind of crazy because for a long time I was looking for answers, and I was like, I just, I want to get a psychic reading, or, like, somebody tell me what happened. Yeah. And I remember I was, like, on these psychic pages on Facebook, and people are doing, like, free readings and stuff like this. I didn't want to go pay for one because I don't know. Anyway, I had 2 that were like, oh yeah, I'll do a reading for you. And, like, one of them, two of them were, like, kind of on the same track, that somebody had, like, pulled out in front of her and then just left the scene.
Heather, do you know Heather?
Yeah.
She told me that she had a dream saying that somebody pulled out in front of her.
Yeah, because the road, you're on a back road, and then there's, like, a road over here. So, like, she goes off on this side, but then, like, it was almost like a intersection. And, like, the thought of, like, somebody pulling out and then, like, that happening and they have no idea, like, how crazy.
I bet you they did have an idea. Because it happened. I would assume it happened like that, because there's a reason why she went off the road.
But also, like, think about, Dad was so far in advance, like, he had no idea. Like,
but that would have happened, like, right, like, if that car would have pulled out right in front of her, they would have known.
Yeah. I don't know. I spent a long time like trying to wrap my head around like what happened and why it happened, and
It bothers me, but I don't know why. I don't think.
yeah, I don't think about it a whole lot anymore, but like when I do, I'm just like, oh, I wish like we would have had like a definite answer.
And okay, do you still have that card, that psychic card?
Yeah.
So I have been getting signs lately from my mom about moons, because I was talking about how I wanted a tattoo for her. Her name is Nova, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get the moon phase of like the day that she died or whatever. And I have been seeing moons everywhere, the moon phases everywhere. And we go to this shopping thing. Me and her go, and Jasmine, right?
Yeah.
So she was walking a little ahead of me, and this random lady, like, completely ignores Shelbi, whips around her, steps in front of me, hands me a card, and disappears. And I turn around, and she's like gone. And I look at it, and I run up to you, and I'm like, look at this. And we walked around that entire place trying to find her and couldn't find it.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. I don't know. I also had a dream about her too, like a month or two after the accident. And we're not really religious people, so kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I was asleep, and she was sitting on the couch, and like, this is in my dream. And I wake up and I go in the living room, and I could tell that she's like spirit form, like she's like translucent kind of. And I was like, oh, like, how are you doing and everything. And like, we caught up. I was telling her everything that happened since she left, and I asked her, well, what's heaven like? And she was like, or how's heaven, something like that. And she told me that she hasn't went yet because she wanted to make sure I was okay before she left me. So that's the only dream I have ever had about her. And I've wanted like answers from her, and I've been like, can't you just tell me in a dream what happened? But
yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's kind of get into running.
okay.
So you were running 3 to 5 miles a day before the accident. When did you start running again?
Within like a month of being home.
Yeah. I remember, wasn't there like a lot of like shock behind that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, people did not expect me to go back.
Yeah. So let me reverse just a second. Before you were sent home and sent to Trust Point, they enrolled you into the Children's Miracle Network. So
Yes.
you were a Children's Miracle not baby, but child. And I remember like that was a big thing that they were caught up on, was like how fast you were running after.
Yeah. And because like, it was shocking. And the reason why I was a Children's Miracle Network kid was because of ECMO, because of the hospital, because they have never done it on a teenager. I was the first.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it was kind of like, she lived.
Yeah.
She should not have lived. I had a 10% chance of living. And I, it's like, I'm not done yet. So, but yeah, running, like, I went back to it. I went to the hospital therapy, and they were amazing. I love them. Every time I go to the hospital, I have to go in there because, like, I mean, I spent so long there. I would go every Tuesday and Thursday for like 4 months. So I go, and her name is Mary. And I remember, like, she's like, we're going to start running. And I was like, okay. And the first time I ran, she put weights on my ankles on an incline. And I was like, you're trying to kill me again. Like, stop it. But it was so hard. It was awful. Like, I hated it. I hated like physical therapy, but like, what is the other one? Occupational therapy. Like, that was my favorite because like I got to sit down and I got to, do things. But it was so hard. My leg hurt so so bad.
What did your lungs feel like?
I got winded really fast. Even like up until 2020, I got winded, and my legs would hurt, and I would have to sit down. I couldn't stand for long periods of time. Like when I moved in with COVID, there was times where like I need to sit down, and that was like 3 years after, and like it still had a toll on me. But my junior year, I didn't run cross country because like I was in a wheelchair on a crutch, whatever, and I was like getting back into running, and I remember going up to my coach and I was like, I'm gonna run track this year. What? Like, yeah, I mean, I can run. I'm gonna run. And so he'd be like, okay. And I ran long distance, and I would go run like the thing that kind of bothered me about this season was I think he was just kind of scared to hurt me. So he would tell me to go run. I ran the same thing every day. He'd tell me to run the same thing every day. Wouldn't do no speed work with me or nothing. So I would just go, I wouldn't go this far, but I would like run in Kahoma. He would tell me to go to the cemetery, but sometimes like I feel like I could not make it that far. So I would just do my own little thing and then I would come back. And that was every day for track practice. And every single track meet that I ran, I never placed my junior year, which was kind of sad. But I never got last. In any single race that I did, I didn't go last, which was like my only goal this season was not to get last. I had to beat somebody, and I did. And, coming from a track runner and a cross country runner that placed every single meet she went to, it was kind of like, like this sucks.
Yeah.
So like my sophomore and freshman year, and even in junior high, I wasn't going to be a long distance runner. I didn't like running. I liked playing softball. That's what I wanted to do. And I remember this day very vividly. We were doing the pacer test or fitness test for the state at the junior high. It was my 7th grade year. And we had to run a mile. And I was like 300 meters ahead of everybody. Whatever, 300 meters ahead of everybody. I was about to lap people on the mile. And they were like, we found what you're doing next year. Yeah. And that's going to be the 2 mile and the mile. I was like, no, why? They're like, because like you literally just beat all these people by this much. Like you have what it takes to be a distance runner. It's like, okay. And so like I ran cross country my 8th grade year. I only went to one meet though because I had softball. It wasn't like I wasn't practicing for it or anything. But yeah, I got second there. And then it was just like an addiction. Like I loved winning. I loved running. And it just came so naturally. I mean, it still does to me. Like it's never been like so hard, but I'm slower now. I'm older. It's harder now, but I still feel like I can go out there and I can run forever and be okay. But
what is because you're currently back to running. How much are you running now?
I run on Sundays.
Yeah.
It's so hard now because I don't live in the best town. I'm scared that if I go out, I'm going to get shanked, hit by a car, shot, whatever. And, I'm a woman now, and I go up on the mountain by myself. I'm scared that I'm going to get taken. So, and it's so hard for me to run on treadmills by myself because I get in my own head on the treadmill. I'm like, oh, I've done a mile. I'll do another one and I'll stop. Like if I see how much I've done, I can't. I forgot my watch yesterday, and it was great. Like, because I wasn't looking like at how much I've done. Because like I feel like if I look at how much I've done, I want to stop. But I run on Sundays, and I normally run about 3 to 4 miles. And I want to get back into it. It's hard right now to figure out a rhythm for myself. to get back into it.
You're also working full-time and going to
college
school
full-time.
full-time.
So, yeah. But like you said earlier, running saved my life. I was in the best shape, but I don't want that to happen again. So, I don't want something bad to happen. I want to get in good shape. That way I can. And it's not hard. I'm just hard on myself. Like, I was fine yesterday. I had to walk a little bit, but like, I had to walk when I was in the best shape of my life on some stuff. So it's like, it's not hard. My body feels fine. My leg feels fine. My lungs feel fine. I get in my head.
It's a mental game.
And I'm not as good as I used to be. And I hate it. I don't hate running. I hate that I'm not as good as I used to be. Because my miles are slow. My miles are like 9 minutes. I used to run like a 5:30 mile.
Yeah.
So
you've also done a few races though, and
Yeah.
you've placed relatively well for like what you've been through.
yeah, we did a trail race, and I got this. Me and my coworker were like, and she crossed the finish line like in a split second before I did. I got the third female
Which
overall.
is great.
Yeah. And then I ran some races in Midland where I've gotten like first in my age group. I mean, because they're like, people travel from all over to come to that race. So it's like I'm up against like top notch runners and still doing good.
So I've been listening to the Mel Robbins podcast. And if you don't know who that is, you should go check it out because it's very empowering to listen to her episodes. But she had an episode, and I want to ask you this question because I'm curious to know what your answer would be. But she talks about like, what is your Grammy moment? You know how like when like an artist works really, really hard on everything and they finally get to like walk across the stage with the Grammys. Like, what is your Grammy moment? Your Grammy moment could for real be like marrying the man of my dreams, having 5 children, having a llama farm. Like, what is your Grammy moment? Like, when you get to that point, you're like, okay, yeah, I've done it. I've made it. What is that for you?
Like, I have to get there first, or like, are you talking about like right now? What is my Grammy moment like right
like,
now?
When will be that Grammy moment for you? Like, for me, like right now, to be on people's Spotify Wrapped at the end of the year for podcasts, like, I feel like that would mean so much to me. So, like, what are you working towards for, like, your Grammy moment? How will you know that you, like, have made it?
I shouldn't say I don't think, but my goal is to run a marathon at least once in my life. Right now, it's not looking good. The hopes aren't high for it. But if that ever comes down to it, heck yeah, like that's gonna be my Grammy moment.
So,
but I'm a pretty chill person. I feel like I don't plan that much into the future. So really thinking like into it, I don't do. So.
What would you have to do to train for a marathon?
Run every single day. Run more miles than I am now, like up there miles. The most I've ran recently is 6 miles, probably a little more than that. And you have to run 26. Yeah. That's up there. So I think my best bet would probably to do a half first and then go on to the 26. But yeah, it's going to take a lot for me to train and to go. And I just don't think I'm in the place right now to do it. So,
well, you've said it on the podcast now.
I kind of have to now, don't I?
So, yeah.
You want to do it with me?
Nope. I don't. But I will be there, and I will go, and I will cheer you on the sidelines. But 10 years from now, let's hope you've got it.
Okay.
That's your Grammy moment, is getting you to there.
My life is so boring. I feel like that's not my like it's an okay Grammy moment, but like most people, I feel like would be like travel the world.
But that's fine. Yeah. Like, you are who you are, and you enjoy what you enjoy, and nobody can take that from you. Yeah. Like, running has been your life, literally.
Since I was, what? How old would I be? 12, 13?
Yeah. So, if that's what you love to do, enjoy
and I
it.
do. It's like very mind clearing. Like, it's kind of like your spa day for most people. They go to, relax, clear their mind, take a bath. Running is my like, oh, okay, my mind's clear now. I'm at peace. It's zen for me, and I don't listen to music. I don't do all that. I just run.
Well.
And I feel like we talked about this last time we tried to do this. I don't tie my shoes, my running shoes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you and your feet.
Okay. I'm not talking about my socks because people are going to judge me for sure.
Oh, no, I'm about to just tell these people how you put your socks on.
Can I show them?
Yes.
Okay, well, like clean? My socks are like, they should be in spot, but I tuck them between my toes.
Look at that. Look at that.
Okay, I don't want to be judged.
Do it again. Hi. You gotta get up there. There you go.
She tucks her socks up in between her toes, and she has done this since she was a child, and I don't understand.
All right, let me explain myself. I hate socks. I hate them with a passion, and I hated them even more as a kid. And I had these socks where they would rub on my toes. The little seam would rub on my toes, and I would hate it. And so I started tucking them underneath my toes, and that they wouldn't stay that way. So the only way I came up with it was to put it between my toes. And I've done that since I was like in second grade. And now I can't stop doing it. If I put socks on and put shoes on and I don't do that, it's like I can't function. I can't walk. I can't do any of it. I have to do it that way. So my running shoes, I have done this since, junior high. I don't tie my shoes. Like, I slip them off. If they untie, I believe it's bad luck. And it's not the same way. It doesn't feel the same as my other shoes, so I have to untie that one. And it's like a whole thing. I double knot them. If I see that the knot's getting loose, I tighten it. Because I believe it's bad luck if my shoes untie. Yeah, so that's my shoe thing.
Wow. You and your OCD tactics.
I don't know. Since we're on the topic of like superstitions, for track, I would wear the same bra, the same underwear, the same socks, everything, because I felt like that's what I wanted. That's what I have to wear again, because I'm not going to win if I don't wear that again.
I guess that's kind of like in the gym, like when you go to set up for like a deadlift or something, it's like the same like tactics.
Yeah.
It's just a runner's tactic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people probably don't do that, but I'm weird, so
embrace it.
I do, and I don't have no friends.
You'll have friends. Well, we gotta figure out how to make you friends. Hello, if you need friends. Just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, my Instagram is AUSTYYNNNN. I don't ever get on Instagram though, so.
Oh, do you have anything else you would like to talk about before I get into some rapid fire questions?
Okay. Well, how I am now, I feel like I'm fine. I remember everything from that day, and a lot of people like think that I am bothered by it, have PTSD from it, but I'm fine. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because it like for me, I don't really like you would think I would have like trauma from going through all that, but it's like I finally just had to let it go.
Yeah.
And like be in peace with everything I went through. And I will say therapy helped me. I did go to therapy, and I did like EDMR, which if you don't know what that is, like you hold like these things and you hear certain noises and you talk about certain things within those noises. And I feel like therapy helped me quite a bit to just like be okay with everything.
On the top of like the psych team, I did not like going there because they're like, you remember everything. You remember what she looked like. You remember what the truck looked like. You remember what Braden looked like. That's PTSD. Here's all this medication. Take it. And I was like, I feel the same with it than I do without it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's one thing that's bothered me because like I'm fine. Like I know it's hard to believe, but I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they were just so like pushy. Something's wrong with you.
But I feel like we were in fight or flight for so long. I think people were just kind of expecting us to just like at any moment just be like, all right, time to like
Cry.
You're going crazy kind of moment.
And
but
people grieve in different ways. And I think that's hard for people to understand. And I've always felt like an outcast for that, for the way that I have, chosen to grieve things. Mm-hmm. And it happened when I was so young too, that like, if I spent my whole life moping about it, my whole life is wasted.
Yeah.
If I like not moping, I mean, I understand like why people cry about things, why people are upset about things, but it's just not who I am. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. Tough skin.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. I feel like I've always kind of been that way.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I don't want to go on a tangent.
Well, let's get into some rapid fire questions.
What are you going to ask me?
The same question as I ask everybody else. Do you eat protein? How much protein do you eat?
I don't keep track of that.
Yeah.
I don't like meat. Meat is not my favorite. If I could choose to eat like vegetables rather than meat, I would do it. But I mean, I eat it I cook it with every meal, but I don't ever keep track of it.
Yeah.
And then I eat a peanut butter and rice cake every morning because of you.
Yeah. Do you take pre-workout before you run?
No.
No.
I feel like I would go crazy on that. Isn't that like caffeine?
Yeah.
Okay, no. I would.
Yeah.
I've heard it makes people jittery, and I get jittery off of like coffee.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you probably don't want to try pre-workout right now. Do you prefer to sprint or pace?
Pace. I ain't sprinting.
Yeah.
I mean, I always like tell Coben, which is my boyfriend, I can outrun you. You're probably faster than me. You could probably sprint, but I'll outrun you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite muscle? So like when you look in the mirror, are you like, yeah, this calf muscle's popping? Your abs.
I mean, it probably doesn't look like I have them right now, but I do have abs.
Yeah.
So.
You and me both. What is something you eat every day? I feel like you just said.
Yeah, it's rice cake and peanut butter.
Yeah. What is something you do intentionally every day?
Do you have an example?
Like I get up early and like cross stitch every day and drink my coffee.
That's a hard one. I don't know.
You're just different every day.
I pretty much. Like I said, I just live my life.
Yeah. Do you read or listen to audiobooks?
I read physical books.
What are you currently reading?
The Local Woman Missing.
I've seen that one on TikTok.
That's a good one.
Yeah. What is your favorite song?
LSD by A$AP Rocky.
Yeah, that one's got a good.
I like the beats.
Yeah.
I don't listen to music for the words. I mean, of course I know the words, but
Yeah.
if it's got a good beat to it, I'm adding it to my playlist. This is like off topic, but I just got YouTube Music. I bought YouTube Music. Coben had it. I bought YouTube Premium. And so like I got YouTube Music with it, and I had to transfer all my songs over. I transferred 2,000 songs the other day.
Wowza.
So
That's a lot. What time do you wake up in the mornings?
6:30 on a work day, and then whenever I feel like it, which is probably like 9:30, 10 on the weekends.
Sometimes 11.
That's if I stayed up really late. I don't go to bed late anymore, really.
All right. Let's say, I usually ask this question of like, if you had your own gym, what is your number one must-have? But if you had a running gym, what would you have in a running gym? Like if you had a gym tailored to running.
You know what I've always wanted to do? This is kind of unrealistic, but those kite things where you run with the kites.
Oh.
I've never done that before,
Yeah.
but I think that would be fun.
It'd be cool to have that as like a running club type thing.
We haven't tried to start a running gym, but we've tried to start a running club, and it doesn't work. People in Big Spring don't want to do anything.
I think that's the town you're in.
Yeah, people, because I'm sure they have running clubs here.
Yeah,
right?
they do.
Yeah. It's just me and my coworker that go running.
Yeah. If you could give anybody honorable mention for anything that they have done in life, who would you choose and why?
I mean, you've done a lot for me. I mean, Dad's done a lot. Copen's done a lot. But I would say, like, pertaining to running, I would say Coach Strickland. She was the one that really, like, got me into it and, like, made me find a passion for that. But, like, just, like, in general, like, y'all. Because, I mean, I could always call you and you're like, okay, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
So, same with Dad. I mean, if you're busy, I call Dad.
Yeah.
I mean, Coben's just been there. So
Yeah.
that's 4 people, but
That's all right. Spreading kindness. All right. Do you have any last words?
no.
All right, my friends. That was the end of my sister's episode, and we would like to say we hope you return for our season finale. Make sure you download, like, and subscribe, and you can follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, and Apple Podcast.
If you don't, I'll sign you up for a marathon.
Be prepared to get that email. But anyway, have a beautiful day, friends. Bye.
Bye.